Hi kids, gonna give you screencast number 2 on Scratch here today. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna make a little bit of a maze game. And the purpose of this is to show you how to resize things and get things moving around and show you how some of the main concepts of how code works in this go. So I've got a blank copy of Scratch just open here. And for this example, I'm gonna use 3 graphics here, and you can download something from the web that you like. So I've got a character, which is just the same dude as you saw in the last one. Downloaded a blue star, which I'm going to use as my item, and just a basic maze image. So go ahead and find one of each of those for yourself to use as you work your way through this one. And here we go. So we're going to load up in Scratch here. First thing is to delete the cat, and let's load up our dude. So let's go to upload sprite, and I'm gonna click on my guy, and here we go. He comes in huge, so we're gonna have to resize him in a sec, but we're gonna resize him to a size that makes sense based on our backdrop. So I'm gonna put the maze in the background as a backdrop. So let's click load and hit maze. So notice how as this loads up here, the tab at the top left here has switched from the code view to the backdrops view, and it's loaded up this JPEG image. So that's fine. The backdrop has come in sort of filling up the screen, which is good enough. And now we're going to resize our character. So I'm going to click on my sprite, and let's use this size thing here. I'm going to try 10%. And let's put him over there. That's still going to be too big, so I think 5 or so is going to work out pretty good. Maybe even 4. And when you're changing your size here, good thing to try it in full screen here. Yeah, maybe that's a bit small. Let's try 5 again. Sure, I'm happy with that. So resize your character to something that, you know, has a little bit of room on either side as you're working through the maze, but not too small either, so that'll be fine. And we're going to go back to our code view here. So as we begin something here, the code view, all of the code in this panel here gets attached to each of the different sprites, and the code is going to be different for each of them, and you can have multiple at a time. So my character here, which I'm going to rename to player, let's add in some code here. So the green flag getting clicked is basically the start button. You can see how my tooltip says go. So whenever the green flag gets clicked, you can think of this as being like, start my game. And whatever comes below this is going to keep running. Now, in a game where we're going to be controlling it with the keyboard today, we want it to keep looking for input from the keyboard. So we're going to use this forever loop here, meaning that it should just keep trying to check if the keyboard buttons have been pushed, and just keep doing that until we hit the stop button. And what we're going to do now is inside of that forever loop, we're going to get it to check if the keyboard arrow keys are pushed. So I'm going to use an if statement, and what we want to use is in the sensing category, there's this key pressed one, and it defaults to the space bar, but as soon as you add it to an if statement, you can get your arrow keys or your A through Z or your numbers. So I'm going to use the arrow keys here. So up arrow, and then let's duplicate this. Let's have down arrow. If I duplicate that, we can have left and right. So these we're going to respond to each of the different 4 arrow keys. And if the key gets pressed, whatever code we put inside the middle of this is going to run. So we're going to go to the motion tab now. And there's a bunch of different ways to change the location. We can use like a direction and steps. So you can basically give it which angle you want it to go and then move that many steps. You can rotate it with the turn ones. You can go to a random position, which, I mean, that's probably not very helpful for a maze, but it's doable. You can go to an exact XY coordinate that you give it. But what we're going to do is we're going to use the change X by and change Y by. So I'm starting out at an X coordinate of 152 and a Y coordinate of 83. And so the change X by 10 would go to 162 and then 172, etc. So it's going to add 10. And you can put negatives in that as well. So when we go to the right, let's go to the right by, I'm going to try this with 3. And I'm going to duplicate that. And then with the left arrow, we can go -3. Same thing with the Y's. So I'm going to go up by 3 and down by 3. And if I put this inside of the forever loop, let's give this a try. So I'm going to go to full screen and click go. And now I've got a character that moves up, down, left, right. And the speed of 3 is probably fine. If you want to go faster or slower, go ahead and use a different number, that's fine. But of course, he's not detecting the map at all here. He's just moving around freebie willy-nilly. So we're going to keep working on that, of course. So that's our first step here. This is probably a good spot for me to remind you that the coordinates in this work like your standard XY axis in math class. So you can think of the y-axis as going up, down in the center. Positive goes up, of course. And then the x coordinates are left and right, positives to the right. And in Scratch, the size is, the width is 480. So 0 is in the center, and then positive 240 is over here, and negative 240 is over here. And then for the y-axis, it's 360 tall. So 0 is in the middle, positive 180 at the top, negative 180 at the bottom. And if you watch the x, y coordinate here, as I move the character around, we can see that change. So as I bring him over to the right, the x coordinate increases. And if I bring him down, the y coordinate decreases. And bring him up, and it increases. So one thing that's common in Scratch here is in between the flag getting clicked and your forever loop is a good spot to set sort of the beginning code. So for this map here, we want to put the character at this location. So let's use the go to x and y command, and let's just use the mouse to place him just perfectly exactly where we want him. So there, I think I like that. So now I'm going to read off my coordinates here, 152 and negative 83. Oh, okay. So when you add it, it grabs from where he was at that time. So mine was pretty close, just with a little adjustment. And now, if I move him over here, or I've been playing with the arrow keys, as soon as I click green flag, notice how he jumps to the starting position. So your kind of main flow is green flag gets clicked is when I start the game, get it set up in a nice situation that we like, and then do some stuff like let the game play. So we want it to respond to the keyboard. We're going to look for colliding with the map in just a sec. And we're going to also do some conditions for if you win or lose the game as well. So let's now try to put together detecting the map. So We've got our keyboard motion working correctly, so we're going to make another if statement. And the sensing is based on the world. So we can detect colors or the mouse pointer or more keyboard stuff or the mouse. We're going to detect color here. So we've got a black map. So let's use this touching color sensor. And we don't want green. Let's set it to black. So we can use the color picker. And let's go click on the black here. Sometimes it doesn't get it perfect because it averages a little bit. So let's just put a quick little looks here. Let's have it say ouch in here. Let's put this in. I think because this brightness is set to 4 here, I'm kind of expecting black to be 0, 0, 0. So I suspect that this is going to not quite work, but let's give it a try. So let's hit go, and now oh, did work. Okay, so nice. If yours doesn't quite work, then I would suggest, try a little adjustment here, or try using the eyedropper a couple of times to get the perfect color. And once we've hit the wall, let's just send him back to the beginning location. So I'm just gonna grab a duplicate of our starting location, and we'll send you back to the beginning. So here's our new game. So we're running around, ouch, I missed it, and hit the wall, and now I go back to the beginning and I keep playing. I'm actually gonna change my black to be perfect because it's kind of working so-so. It's kind of missing some of the walls. So let's try changing this to a brightness of 0. And let's try it now. Oop, that one works better. That works better. Yeah, so I think I like it best with 0, 0, 0 for black. Yeah. Okay, so that's dying when you hit the edge of the map. Let's add a winning condition to this as well. So I'm going to click stop, and let's go into our backdrop and go to the backdrop editor here. And let's put a win spot at the other side of the map. So I'm going to use something that's a totally different color. I'm going to go with green today. And just filled is good. And let's put a winner over on this side here. So as I'm creating this, notice how I'm putting it so that it's got no gap here right between the white of the maze and the end of it, which is good. And maybe we can put some text on this too. So how about blue? And let's call it goal. And let's resize it so it fits on there. You can use your arrow keys to kind of shove it around. That should work for what we're doing here. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to detect the green of that as our winning condition. So let's go back to our code. Oh, hold on, I can't see any of my code. What happened? Well, don't forget there's different code on each different thing. So right now it's because I'm selected on the backdrop. So let's go back to our player, and here's our code now. So we're going to do something similar to what we did with detecting the map. So let's get another if statement. And we're going to use on the sensing tab for a color. And the color that I want is neon green. And let's just copy this code here, and it's a you win. Nice job. And I'm not going to move him to the start, so let's get rid of that. And we can, let's add a windscreen. So I'm going to add another backdrop for this, which I'm going to go to upload. Oh, actually, no. Let's go to choose a backdrop. And there was actually one that I liked, which was in the desert. So let's do that. And we can throw some text on this. So, oh, that's cap lock. Good job, nice win. And we can resize it. And pick your color, maybe red. Sure, that'll do. So that's going to be my winning background. So I'm going to call it win. So back to my code here on the player. So it says you win, nice job. And let's change the background. So we are going to go to the looks tab and using the switch backdrop to winning. Notice how we've got maze 1 is our basic map that we've got for the maze here. Backdrop 1 was the default blank one that I haven't used, and now we've got this winner one. And let's hide the character, because otherwise he's going to be displaying on top of the winning screen, which is kind of dumb. So let's go to looks, and let's hide the character. And we can stop the game. Control, stop all. So we can try this now. I'm just going to fire the character over here just to test. So you win, nice job. And there we go. The character has been hidden. He's not going to display on the final screen here, which is fine. And notice how the game has stopped. So if we click go now, oh, I'm still on the winning screen. So let's add a new thing to the beginning here. So at the beginning, remember that the character got put in the location at the sort of bottom right corner, which is good, but we also want it to display the map. So let's switch the background to the maze. Okay, but I still can't see my character because remember he got hidden down here. So you see how the player is showing as not visible here in the designer. So let's add on a show. And now if I go to green flag clicked, now I'm on the side here. I can see my map. Let's just test this again. So I'm going to drag him around to the corner. You win, nice job. There's my winning screen. And now when I click go again, I'm back to my map. My character is displayed and I can move around. So that's working pretty good. The last thing that we're going to do here today is we're going to add an item to our world. So let's go to the upload sprite here, and we're going to add in our blue star. Again, it comes up huge, so let's size this down. I used 5 for my character, and 5 looks pretty good here as well. And so now we can have code in both the star and the player, and they can be separate. So notice how as I flip-flop between these two here, I get different code. And in this corner of the code view here has a little icon that shows which item that is. So that's pretty cool. And we're going to use the same startup here. So our events. The green flag getting clicked is the beginning of our game. And just to show that we've got these two working separately, let's get a little test in here. So I'm going to add a forever loop. And I'm just going to turn it, let's try 5 degrees. So let's hit go. And here is my star that's spinning. And I'm actually happy with that speed. That looks fine to me. So let's now get him to detect collecting the stars. So I'm just going to move this nice and close to make testing this easy, and then we can put the location of it wherever we want as we go. So I'm going to put this code in the star, actually. So in our control here, we're going to have an if statement, and we're going to detect if, sensing, if we are touching our player. And what we're going to do is we're going to have 3 stars in the map here, and we're going to make it so that when you get to the goal, you have to have collected all 3 stars in order to get to the goal. Otherwise, it'll say, hey, hold on, you're not quite done yet. So in order to do this, we need a way of counting how many stars have been collected. So this brings us to something that's really important in Scratch and all of computer programming. It's called variables. So it defaults with one called myVariable, so let's just get rid of that. And let's make us a variable that's going to be for collecting stars. So I'm going to call mine stars collected. And you can make this something that all the sprites can see and use, or you can make it something that only the star can use. We want it to be for all sprites because we want the star to be able to say, hey, I've been collected. And then at the end, we want when Mario hits the, or Mario character, whatever, when he gets to the goal, we want to check if we've got all 3 of them. So stars collected, we're going to use all sprites, hit OK. And if the star is touching the player, we are going to change stars collected by 1. So it's going to add 1 to it. And then we are going to hide that star. So if we're hiding it in our forever loop, then when we begin, it's probably a good idea that we show that star so that it's available every time we start the game. And another thing to mention to you, when we've created a variable here, this variables tab here, notice that we've got a checkbox here, and we've also got stars collected showing on here. The checkbox controls if it's displaying on your game. So I'm going to leave it on here for getting this started. So we're going to hit green flag here. We're going to go and collect the star. Notice how it changed from 0 to 1. And if I click my green flag here, notice how the star comes up as well. So we can, oh, it's just a little bit of lag. So it's because the character was still right there when I hit the green flag. So that's fine. There we go. Okay, so at this point I've collected 5 stars, but I've been stopping and restarting. So another thing that we want to reset every time we begin a game is let's go to our startup for player, and let's just set our stars collected to 0 at the very beginning. So when I click go, I've got 0 stars. Now I go over to the star, now I have 1, I'm moving around, and let's restart the game, we're back to 0. So that's good. And now what we can do is we can take our stars and we can make a couple of duplicates, and we can place them in good locations. I'm going to place them so that I know how to work my way through my maze here. And once we get to the you win, nice job here, we want to have an if else. So we want to check and make sure that we've collected all 3 stars. So we've been counting up our stars collected. It'll go 1, 2, and 3. And so let's check and make sure with an operator. We can have an operator with the equals. If my stars collected is equal to 3, this is going to be our winning code. Else, let's have him just say, Nope, go get another star. And I'm just going to shove him back to the right so that he's back into the map. So I'm going to use change x by, let's try 6. So if I click my green flag here, okay, I've collected all 3 of my stars. I'm not going to admit how many times I hit the walls and failed. And now we go to the goal, and nice job, you win, and we've got our winning screen. There we go.